What if I told you your life already changed yesterday and you're the only one who hasn't realized it yet? Think about that. What you've been chasing, praying for, stressing over, it didn't just suddenly appear in some distant future. It's already done, already complete, already part of your story. The only thing left is for you to remember it. Because the moment you stop looking ahead and start looking back, everything shifts. The pressure disappears, the doubt fades, and in its place comes a quiet, unshakable certainty. So don't wait for your life to change tomorrow. Step into the version of you who knows it already happened yesterday. Live from the end, not toward it. This is the shift that changes everything. Most people spend their lives moving toward what they want, chasing goals as if they exist somewhere far ahead in time. They wake up each day feeling incomplete, measuring the distance between where they are and where they wish to be. That distance creates effort, pressure, and doubt. It keeps the desire just out of reach. But the moment you stop moving toward your desire and instead begin living from it, something profound happens within you. The chase ends, and in its place comes a quiet certainty. To live from the end means you mentally and emotionally place yourself in the position of already having what you want. You no longer think of it as something you need to get, achieve, or attract. You think from it, not of it. There is a difference. When you think of something, you are acknowledging its absence. When you think from it, you are accepting its presence. This subtle shift changes your entire inner world. Your thoughts become aligned with fulfillment instead of longing. Your reactions begin to reflect someone who is already complete, not someone who is waiting to be. Stop chasing your desires because chasing implies separation. It reinforces the idea that what you want is outside of you, somewhere in the future, requiring effort and time to obtain. But what if that is the illusion? What if the moment you decide it is already done, the entire game changes? When you assume your desire is already completed and behind you, you remove the emotional tension that comes from wanting. You are no longer hoping for it to happen. You are remembering that it has already happened. This feeling of completion brings a sense of calm that cannot be forced. It is natural, effortless, and deeply convincing. Think about how you feel about something that already happened yesterday. There is no urgency, no desperation, no constant questioning. You don't keep checking if it's real. You simply know it is done. That is the exact mental state you must adopt. When you live from the end, you carry yourself differently. Your decisions change. Your self-talk changes. Even your body language reflects confidence and ease. You are no longer trying to become someone. You are being that person now. This does not mean you stop taking action. It means your actions come from a place of certainty instead of lack. There is no strain in what you do because you are not trying to force an outcome. You are expressing a state that is already yours. Opportunities begin to feel natural. Progress feels inevitable. And the journey itself becomes lighter, almost effortless, because you are not weighed down by doubt. The mind is powerful, but it follows the identity you accept as true. When you continue to identify as someone who is on the way, you will always experience a sense of incompleteness. But when you identify as someone who has already arrived, your mind begins to organize your reality to match that belief. You don't need to fight your thoughts or force positivity. You simply return to the knowing that it is already done. So live from the end. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Let your inner world reflect the reality you desire as if it is already behind you. Walk with the ease of someone who has nothing to prove and nothing to chase. Because in that state, you are no longer seeking your life, you are living it. Yesterday has a quiet power that most people overlook. It carries a sense of finality, of completion, of something that no longer needs to be questioned or controlled. When you place your desire in yesterday, you remove it from the realm of uncertainty and bring it into the realm of certainty. Think about anything that happened yesterday in your life. You don't wonder if it will happen. You don't worry about how it will unfold. You don't feel anxious trying to make it real. It simply is. It's settled. This is the exact state your mind enters when you assume your desire has already happened. Doubt only exists when something is seen as being in the future. The future carries possibilities, and with possibilities come questions. Will it happen? How will it happen? What if it doesn't happen? These questions create mental noise, and that noise becomes resistance. It weakens your focus and divides your belief. But when you move your desire out of the future and into the past, into yesterday, those questions lose their meaning. There is nothing left to figure out because the event is no longer pending. It is complete, and with that completion comes peace. Your mind is designed to accept what feels familiar and finished. When you assume something already happened, your brain processes it similarly to a memory. It doesn't argue with it the same way it argues with uncertain outcomes. Instead of trying to predict or control, it relaxes into acceptance. This is why imagining your desire as already done brings such a strong feeling of relief. You are no longer carrying the burden of making it happen. You are simply acknowledging that it has happened. Fear also begins to fade in this state. Fear is always tied to the unknown. It feeds on the idea that something might go wrong, that something is out of your control. But yesterday holds no threat. You are not afraid of yesterday because it cannot be changed. It has already unfolded. When you place your desire there, you remove the fear of failure, the fear of delay, and the fear of not being enough. All of those fears depend on an uncertain future. Once that future is collapsed into the past, fear has nothing to attach itself to. Worry disappears for the same reason. Worry is the habit of mentally trying to solve a problem that hasn't happened yet. It's a loop of what if thinking that keeps you stuck in tension. But if your desire already happened yesterday, there is no problem to solve. There is no outcome to manage. The mind naturally stops spinning because the situation is no longer open-ended. It is closed, finished, certain. This is not about pretending or forcing yourself to believe something unreal. It is about shifting your perspective in a way that removes resistance. When you say, "It happened yesterday," you are not trying to convince yourself through effort. You are allowing your mind to enter a state where belief feels natural. And in that natural state, your thoughts, emotions, and reactions begin to align without struggle. As you continue to hold this assumption, it starts to reflect in how you carry yourself. You feel lighter, more grounded, less reactive to circumstances. You stop looking for constant proof because you already feel the certainty within. That inner certainty becomes your foundation, and from that foundation, your external world begins to shift. So when doubt tries to appear, you don't fight it. You simply return to the knowing it already happened yesterday. And in that simple shift, worry fades, fear dissolves, and uncertainty disappears, because in the mind it is already done. Manifestation is often misunderstood as an act of creation, as if you are trying to build something from nothing or force life to give you what it has not yet decided to offer. This belief places you in a position of effort and struggle, where everything feels like it depends on how hard you try, how much you push, or how perfectly you align every step. But there is a different way to see it, one that removes pressure entirely. Manifestation is not about creating something new, it is about remembering what already exists and allowing yourself to step into it. When you think of creation, you assume there is a beginning point, a moment where something is not there, and then through action or effort, it comes into being. That idea naturally leads to doubt, because if something has not yet been created, there is always the possibility that it might never be. This is why people feel uncertain, why they question the process, and why they often give up. But when you shift your understanding to remembering, everything changes. Remembering implies that what you desire is already real, already complete, and already available. You are not bringing it into existence, you are becoming aware of it. Think about how memory works. When you remember something, you are not creating it again. You are simply accessing something that already happened. There is no effort in remembering. There is no doubt about whether it exists. It carries a sense of certainty and familiarity. When you approach manifestation in the same way, you remove the strain of trying to make things happen. Instead, you relax into the feeling that it has already happened, and you allow your mind to accept that as your reality. This shift changes your inner conversation. Instead of asking, how do I make this happen? You begin to think, this is already mine. Instead of looking outside for confirmation, you turn inward and connect with the feeling of already having it. That feeling becomes your anchor. It guides your thoughts, your reactions, and your decisions without force. You are no longer trying to convince yourself of something unnatural. You are simply returning to a truth that feels real within you. The idea that you are stepping into a reality that already exists also removes the fear of failure. If the reality already exists, there is nothing to fail at. There is only a shift in awareness. You are choosing which version of life you identify with. Every possibility is available, but you experience the one you accept as true. This is why your state of mind is so powerful. It is not creating the outcome, it is selecting it. As you begin to live from this understanding, you will notice that things start to feel different. You are not as reactive to delays or obstacles because you no longer see them as signs that something is not working. You see them as temporary appearances that do not change the deeper truth you have accepted. Your confidence grows, not because you have proof, but because you feel the certainty within yourself. That certainty is quiet but strong. It does not need validation. You also stop overthinking the process. When you are trying to create, you are constantly analyzing, planning, and questioning every move. But when you are remembering, there is nothing to figure out. You trust the unfolding because in your mind, it has already unfolded. This trust allows life to move more smoothly without resistance. So you are not here to force reality to change. You are here to recognize the reality you desire and align with it internally. You are here to remember, to feel, and to accept. And as you do, you naturally step into the version of life that was always there, waiting for you to claim it. The feeling of relief is often overlooked because it is quiet, subtle, and does not demand attention the way excitement does. Most people believe that if their desire is truly coming into reality, they should feel intense emotion, overwhelming joy, or constant enthusiasm. But that is not the state of fulfillment. Excitement is unstable. It rises quickly, but it can just as easily fall. It carries a sense of anticipation, which still implies that something is about to happen rather than already done. Relief, on the other hand, is steady. It is calm. It is grounded in completion. Think about the moment after something important has already worked out in your favor. Not before it happens, but after. There is a deep exhale, a release of tension you may not have even realized you were holding. Your mind becomes quiet. You stop overthinking. You no longer feel the need to check, to control, or to worry. That feeling is relief. It is not loud, but it is powerful because it signals to your entire being that the situation is resolved. This is the state that aligns you with fulfillment. When you try to manifest from excitement, you often create pressure without realizing it. You may feel good for a moment, but underneath that feeling is still a sense of waiting. You are excited because you hope it will happen, because you are looking forward to it. That subtle sense of not yet keeps the desire in the future. It keeps you reaching instead of resting. Relief removes that completely. When you feel relief, there is no more reaching. There is nothing to look forward to because in your mind it has already happened. Calm certainty is the natural companion of relief. It is not forced belief or repeated affirmations trying to convince your mind. It is a quiet knowing that does not argue or defend itself. You do not feel the need to prove it to anyone, not even to yourself. It simply is. This kind of certainty does not fluctuate with circumstances because it is not dependent on external evidence. It comes from within, from the acceptance that your desire is already fulfilled. Inner peace also begins to take over when you enter this state. You are no longer disturbed by delays or appearances that seem to contradict what you want. Instead of reacting with frustration or doubt, you remain steady. This does not mean you ignore reality or pretend challenges do not exist. It means those challenges no longer define your state. Your peace is rooted in something deeper, something that does not change with every external shift. This is why relief is so powerful. It naturally dissolves resistance. Resistance is created by tension, by trying too hard, by constantly checking and questioning. When you feel relief, that tension disappears. You are no longer holding on to the desire tightly. You have let it go in the sense that you trust it is already yours. And in that trust, your mind and body come into alignment. You will also notice that when you are in a state of relief, your actions become more effortless. You are not driven by urgency or fear of missing out. You act when it feels natural, when it feels right, not because you are trying to force a result. This creates a sense of flow in your life where things seem to fall into place without struggle. Relief does not need to be dramatic to be real. In fact, the quieter it is, the more authentic it tends to be. It feels like a gentle settling, like everything has found its place. There is nothing left to fix, nothing left to chase. Just a simple, steady knowing that it is done. And in that knowing, you embody the state where your desire is no longer something you want, it is something you already have. Eliminate the time gap, and you eliminate resistance. The time gap is the invisible distance you place between where you are and what you desire. It is the mental space where you say, "This will happen, but later," or "I will have this, but not yet." That not yet is where all struggle begins. It creates waiting, and waiting invites doubt. The longer something feels like it belongs to the future, the more your mind begins to question it, analyze it, and even fear that it may never arrive. This is how resistance is formed, not because your desire is impossible, but because you have placed it too far away from yourself. Time, in this sense, is not just a physical measure, it is psychological. It is shaped by your perception. When you believe something will take time, your mind automatically fills that time with uncertainty. You begin to wonder what needs to happen, what could go wrong, and how long it will take. This constant mental activity creates tension. You are no longer at ease. You are in a state of anticipation mixed with doubt. That tension is resistance, and it slows everything down because you are not aligned with the feeling of already having what you want. But the moment you collapse that time gap, everything shifts. When you assume that your desire has already happened, you remove it from the future entirely. You bring it into the present by placing it in the past. You say, in effect, this is already done. And when something is already done, there is no timeline attached to it. There is no waiting period. There is no process to figure out. It becomes a fact in your mind, something that does not need to be questioned or controlled. This is how resistance dissolves so naturally. Resistance cannot exist without time. It feeds on the idea that something is still unfolding, still uncertain, still out of reach. But when you collapse time, there is nothing left for resistance to hold on to. Doubt has no space to grow because there is no gap for it to live in. You are not thinking about how long it will take or whether it will happen. You are resting in the knowing that it already has. This shift also changes how you experience your daily life. Instead of feeling like you are on a journey towards something, you feel like you have already arrived. There is a sense of completeness that replaces the constant urge to seek. You are no longer looking for signs or validation because you are not waiting for confirmation. In your mind, the confirmation already exists. This creates a deep inner stability that is not easily shaken by external circumstances. When challenges appear, they do not carry the same weight they once did. You do not interpret them as obstacles to your desire because your desire is no longer in question. It is already fulfilled. So instead of reacting with frustration or doubt, you remain grounded. You understand that temporary appearances do not change the final outcome. This keeps you aligned with your state instead of pulling you back into uncertainty. Collapsing the time gap also removes the pressure to control every detail. When you believe something will happen in the future, you feel responsible for making it happen correctly. You overthink your actions, trying to ensure everything leads to the desired result. But when it is already done, that pressure disappears. You are free to move naturally without the constant need to manage or force outcomes. Your actions become more intuitive, more relaxed, and more effective because they come from a place of certainty rather than lack. In the end, everything comes down to one simple shift: stop chasing and start remembering. Your desire is not ahead of you, waiting to be achieved. It is already complete, already yours. When you assume it happened yesterday, you dissolve doubt. When you live from the end, you step into certainty. When you embrace relief instead of excitement, you enter the state of fulfillment. And when you eliminate the time gap, you remove every trace of resistance. There is nothing to force, nothing to figure out, nothing to wait for. It is done. Let that knowing settle within you like truth, not effort. Walk in it, think from it, feel it as natural. Because the moment you accept it as real within, it begins to reflect without. You are not becoming your desired life, you are remembering it.